Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, I want to do a little quick follow-up video about these Norton abrasive multi-oil stones that I restored in a previous episode. I had some technical difficulties when I got into edit. I had lost a little bit of footage in there. I wanted to come back. There were a few things that I just didn't get covered in that video that I want to cover. And also going back and looking at the comments from the first video, had some questions that I thought we would address. And just go ahead and kind of finish that whole episode up. So let's get in here. So first off, I had a lot of questions about the tags and where I got those from. So these were created for me by my friend Tom Utley over at Von Industrial. And Tom has a little business that he started up a couple of years ago where he creates these reproduction tags. Now he goes in, he takes an original tag, or he takes a scan or a digital photograph or whatever he can get, and he will go in there and recreate the artwork on his computer, and then from that he will create a mask and re-etch these things in whatever material they were in there originally from. Now Tom goes to great lengths to make sure he gets these things as close to perfect as he possibly can, even to the point where he'll go in there and create new vector line art in the computer for things like fonts that he can't find, where he doesn't have a match in the computer. A lot of these tags were made pre-computer days, so you just can't assume that the font in your computer matches the font that was used to make that tag. And in those cases, he'll literally recreate those fonts and everything else on there. He does an outstanding job. Go check him out. Von Industrial is his website, vonindustrial.com, and you can send him an email through his website. And if you have a project that you need tags made for, I'm sure he can help you out. If he already has the artwork done, if he's done a tag in the past, it's a lot cheaper. Obviously, a lot of the cost in doing a project like this is the time doing the artwork up front. But if he's already got it in his inventory, it saves you a little bit of money on the other end. So get up with Tom if you're interested in that. And we're going to get to this in a minute, but in addition to the tags, he also created for me some labels that go on the inside of these lids. And if you look in there, there originally was a paper label in there that had instructions and had part numbers and so forth. I'm going to show this in a minute. I lost audio, but I'm just going to go ahead and show you right here that he created these, and we're going to put those in there as well. That didn't make it into the last episode. Several people asked about the oil that we use for these, and yeah, guys, it's Sharpening Stone Oil, and I actually purchased some from Norton, which is exactly what would have gone in these Norton oil stones. And I ordered this from the sharpeningsupplies.com, same place I ordered those Arkansas stones that went on to the one set, but you can get this and just pour it right in there, and this is a good quality Sharpening Stone Oil. There's other companies that make Sharpening Stone Oil. It's all basically the same thing, and it's just basically a light oil that you use for lubrication on those stones. And the purpose of the oil is a couple of things. It helps give some lubrication, but it also kind of helps clean those stones and flush the little metal particles that you're grinding off, get them out of the way and keep them from clogging that stone up over time. So anyway, that is what we use, just Norton Sharpening Stone Oil. I also want to point out that of the three that I did, again, two of these are for myself, and I've got the Arkansas stones on one set, and I have the original Norton synthetic stones on the other set. These are the two that I'm keeping for myself. The third one back here belongs to a friend of mine. He had one, and when I told him I was going to restore mine, he asked if I would do his at the same time. So I just kind of threw it into the mix, and so that one is actually going back to him, and he has Norton Stones. He's got his stones at home. He did not send them to me, so he's going to put those on himself once I bring that one back to him. But a couple of eagle eyes out there noticed that there was a little bit of a difference between two of them, and I actually commented on this when I shot my first video, but unfortunately I lost that footage, so it didn't get into the first video. So there is a difference between these two. I believe that this one here is an older version. It's basically the same thing, but if you look, the knobs are different. This one here has a different style knob. Notice this one has a little flute in there, whereas this one is it's machined all the way. These were originally either chrome or nickel plated. I really can't tell. A lot of the plating has gone away over the years, but there was a little bit still left on there, and it's smooth. These are just rough castings, and they were just painted black. And the other big thing is, you notice the lack of the tag on the front. Now, I had a third tag made to go on this one, and I started to drill some holes and put it in there, but then I got to thinking about it. I said, you know, they're clearly different. And I'm sure that Norton added this tag here later on, and I decided I'm going to keep it the way it was original. There was not an original tag on here. There were no holes in this one. There was no tag affixed to this one. I'm confident that it did not have that front tag on it when I got it. So I'm just keeping it the way it was, the way when it was built. So again, that's the reason for the lack of the front label on one of them. So going back to this little label that's on the inside, none of the ones that I had the label still in them. One of them you could actually see where the paper label had been in there, but all that was left was you could just kind of see where it had been ripped out or it had come out at some point in time. But we did some research, and we found a couple of people that still had an original one with a good label in it. And again, Tom over at Von Industrial, he was able to take a scan of that, a picture of that, and he recreated the artwork for that, and he printed out some new labels, and these were actually are made on a sticker. This material, I'm not sure what it is. It's not really paper. It's more of almost a plastic type material, a little bit tougher. I think it'll stand up better than the original papers ones did, but it's on a self-adhesive piece, so you just peel the back off and it's a sticker. Now, I noticed that I drilled 4 little small holes in there for the pins, or for the drive screws where they came in. I actually just took the plate, laid it on top of here. I tried to find a spot where I did not get into the text no more than I absolutely had to, and I just drilled 4 little holes using the tag here as a template. Now, I noticed in some of the photographs of the original paper tags, they just put them over the drive pins, and there were just little bumps up underneath it. I just didn't like that, and actually I did see some pictures where in some cases Norton had punched holes in there and they had come through like this. I like this better because you don't get anything behind that sticker. I think that's a place where that decal will eventually fail. So anyway, we do have the decals installed in all of them. What is on the decal? It has instructions on basically how to use it, putting the oil in there, so forth like that. I did notice that your service guaranteed is void if other than genuine Norton Multi-Oilstones or Multi-Oilstone, can't say it, Multi-Oilstone oil is used. So yeah, we replaced the original stones on this one with Arkansas stones. So dang it, I guess I voided the warranty. Darn, I don't know what I'm going to do about that, but I like my Arkansas stones. Over here on this side, it has the part numbers for the different stones as well as for the oil, and has places you can order these from. I'm sure most of those places probably are not still there. Some of them may be, but it has addresses where you can do them. I don't know what date this decal comes from, but I'm guessing probably 1940s, 1950s vintage would be my guess. Another question that came up was talking about reconditioning the stones themselves and how I went about doing that. And no, I did not include any video or any information on it because I literally sent these stones down to my friend Lance Baltzley in Florida, and he did all of that. I was not even there when he did it. And the way Lance did this job is he took these stones and put them on his surface grinder, same machine we use to grind metal down. Basically has a bed that goes back and forth up underneath a grinding wheel. Now, in the case of him, he makes precision ground flat stones using Norton. He actually uses Norton Stones, pretty much the same stone as what's on here right now, a little bit smaller size. And he uses a diamond wheel on his grinder, and he just grinds them down and gets them to be perfectly flat again. Now, in the case of this, what he did here was he just ground them until he took that belly out of them. All of these stones had some wear in them, and they are going to wear over time. You'll usually get a little bit of a belly in the middle where you sharpen. It'll wear down. And he just ground down enough until he got below that. And on these, he only had to grind one side. You can flip these stones over. When one side gets worn, you just flip it over. You can grind on or work off the other side. But there was enough meat left on these that we were very comfortable continuing to use them like they were and on here. And guys, I'll try to, at some point in time, see if I can get some video of him actually grinding these. But if you've got some stones that you want to get ground, you can get up with Lance Balsley. I'll put a link to his website down in my comments, as well as to Tom over at Von Industrial. You can contact him. He's had people send him these stones, and he will regrind them for you for a fee. So that would be what I recommend if you want to get that job done. The other option is you can just order new stones if you want to replace them if you've got an old one. And again, I ordered my Arkansas stones from SharpeningsSupplies.com. Guys are not giving me any kickbacks or anything like that. That's just where I found them at. But they have the original Norton stones you can order in there as well. One comment that kind of came up multiple times was about restoration, and I think there's always, and this is an age-old question out there, what is the proper way to restore something? Should you take it back to original, strip off paint, replace paint, or should you try to keep, the original patina or whatever you want to call it on the part? And guys, I'm just going to say right now, there is no right or wrong answer to this question. It's really what you want to do and what your goal is, and that's kind of the way I look at this. Now, ideally, you take an item that's in fairly decent shape to start with, and you try to preserve as much as that patina and history on there as you can. Most of the time when I'm restoring something, I'm usually starting from a point where it's kind of beyond really being able to rescue it and have it coming out looking worth a flip. And I kind of felt that was the case with these oil stones. One of them had been painted silver with a rattle can. The other two, the paint was in really bad shape. And I made the decision, hey, we're starting over. We're going to take it back as close to the way as I can to have it look the way it did the day it was brand spanking new. That was my goal. And I feel like that hopefully we accomplished that in this restoration project. Now, if you don't like doing that yourself and you like to keep the original, the paint, and you want to keep that history on there, that's fine. I think that's great. And I've seen some beautiful restoration jobs where people have done that. And I still consider that to be a restoration. But guys, don't get too hung up on it. Do what you want to do. Make it come out the way you want it to come out, and don't be critical of somebody else if they don't do it exactly the same way you would have. Well, ever since I've gotten these sharpening stones done, I have been sharpening knives left and right. I've got all my pocket knives sharp. I've gone through my wife's kitchen knives, and I thought, hey, I'd just show you guys my process for sharpening knives. So this is a knife I've got made by Shank Knives out in Idaho. I visited them a couple of years ago, and this has been one that I use. I don't use it a lot. It's a Damascus blade, but I do use it some, and it has been getting a little bit dull, so it's time. We're going to freshen it up. So we'll start here with the coarsest stone. And for me, I know there's a lot of people that do knives differently. This is the way I do it. This is what works for me. Your mileage may vary. You may have a different process if it works for you. I'm not going to tell you it's wrong. So, but I just come in here and I just do it by hand. I don't use any kind of gauge to hold this. It's just kind of a feel thing. I've done sharpening all my life since I was a teenager, and this is the way I've do it. But I'm just going to come in here, and we're just going to go back and forth on this stone. As far as that angle, you just pick an angle that works for you and is close to the original one. Again, you get a feel for it after a while. You can get that angle pretty close from one pass to the other just by feel. And you do a lot of sharpening. You don't have to spend a lot of time trying to figure out your angle. It just kind of comes natural to you. You're not going to mess one of these knives up. Don't worry about it. If you want to use a guide to keep the angle exactly the same, that's great. Use one. They work. I've used them. They work fine. I just find I don't need them. As far as downward pressure, I'm not putting a lot of pressure on this. A little bit, but it's not like I'm putting a lot of force on here. It's not like I'm trying to push it through. You just want to go back and forth. You want to take your time and do this. And you can really feel it. Once you kind of get all the little rough areas out of there, all the little kinks, all the little nicks, it just starts feeling really smooth going back and forth. And that's usually a sign that you've done enough on that particular stone. It's just from a feel. So this knife was not in terrible shape to start with, so it's not going to take a whole lot to get it there. It was starting to get a little bit dull, but we're going to stop right there. Just wipe the oil off. I've just got a piece of paper here. This is the same, some of the backing of that decal. And yeah, it's cutting nice and sharp. If your knife was not sharp, it would not have cut that piece of paper like that. We're going to make it sharper by going through the grits here on the stone. But I like to get it on my first stone where it's pretty much razor sharp. Then we'll flip that over to the next stone. We're going from a soft stone to a hard Arkansas stone. And as the name implies, the stone gets harder. And when this gets harder, it's a finer grit. And what we're doing is we're kind of polishing that edge. We're taking out the little scratches, the little grooves that were put in there by the abrasives on the first pass. And we're just literally polishing that edge, honing that edge to a razor sharp. So we're going to do this again. You don't have to go crazy. Don't put down a whole lot of downward pressure. Let the stone do its work, and you'll feel it. As you do this, it's going to get smoother and smoother and smoother. And when you really stop telling a difference, you probably got all those grooves out of it, and you're ready to move on to the next stone. I'm going to go just a little bit longer here, and then we'll go to the next one. All right, I think that's good. So we'll, again, go to our next stone. In this case, we've got a hard black Arkansas stone. This is a really, really fine stone, and you can feel the difference going from that the regular hard stone to this hard black stone. And we're just going to take the time here. This one right here really puts that razor edge on your knife, on your blade, on your edge. And you can feel it. I can feel it getting better and better with every pass. So we're going to take a few minutes here. Usually most of the work is done on that soft stone, that first stone, the coarsest stone. Once you kind of get that edge defined, you don't have to spend as much time on these on the second and third stones. These are more for just putting that finished final edge on. Assuming you do a good job on your soft stone, on your coarse stone, it doesn't take very much time to get these things honed out to the final stage. All right, I think we're done. So let's do our cut test again. I got our piece of paper here, and yeah, that is sharp, and we're gonna let it roll. I'll put this one up, and it's ready for more use. And as long as we're sharpening, let's try out the other set here that has the Norton synthetic stones in them. There's nothing wrong with these synthetic stones whatsoever. These are actually excellent stones. Some people prefer the synthetic stones over the natural stones. Me personally, I like the natural stones, but it's just a preference. But here we're going to do a chisel. I went and grabbed, this is one of my Stanley number 750 wood chisels that I use all the time, and I try to keep these sharp. This one is pretty sharp right now. It's not going to take a whole lot of work to just kind of tune it up a little bit, but it's a very similar process. But notice on this chisel, and this would be the same for like a plane blade if you got a hand plane, it's not sharpened in two directions. You really just have one angle and you have a back. So on a knife, you know, you kind of have two things that come down. On this, you got a flat and you got an angle on there. And what I think a lot of people do by mistake when they're sharpening a chisel or a plane blade is they only sharpen the one side. You've got to make sure this back side is nice and polished so that you have that good edge. So I always start by putting my chisel down just flat on the stone, and I really want to just focus on about a 1/2 inch there in the front and make sure that you have that nice and honed out. And we're just going to do it here real quickly on this stone. Again, these chisels are in pretty good shape. They're not going to take a whole lot of work. That black stuff that you see on there, that's the metal that we're actually cutting off. So you know, it's not much, but it is coming off, and you can see a really nice shine right there on that front edge. And then for the bevel, what I'll do is I'll lay my chisel down like this, I'll bring it up, and you can feel it when you get your angle right. And again, some people will use a guide to keep that angle perfect. I find I can just do it by hand real quickly. In the time that it takes me to set up that gauge, I can usually have my chisel honed out and sharpened out. Again, these chisels are pretty sharp already, so I don't have to spend a whole lot of time on this one. And you can see it nice and polished right down there at the front. We'll go ahead and work through the grits on this one as well. We'll go to the second one. This is our medium grit. And again, we'll hit that back. This is more typical of what I like to do when I'm sharpening. Is it doesn't take a whole lot of time to go through these grits. This one I'm just touching up, so I'm not like I'm having to spend a whole lot of time to really get it sharp. If you do this every time you use your chisels, in just a minute or two, you can get that edge honed out really nice and not have to do a whole lot of work to get it there. And that's probably plenty right there. When I'm doing woodworking, every time I use these chisels, first thing I do is I go hone them up real quick. It only takes a couple of minutes. If you do it every time you use them, you're good to go. Cuts it right just fine. Okay, there you go. That's how to do a chisel. Same process for a plane blade. Well, there you go. Quick follow-up video on the Norton Oilstones. Really happy with these. You guys just don't know how excited I am about this. Yeah, I'm a nerd. I know it. But I like to have sharp knives. I like to have sharp chisels. I like to have sharp tools. And I've been wanting one of these my whole life. Now I got 2 of them. Should be set to go and do pretty much keep my tools sharp. I'm gonna leave one of these out on my bench out here, and I imagine just like when I used to go to the auto parts store when I was a kid growing up, they had one of these sitting on the counter. I'm gonna leave one sitting out on my bench, and more than likely what will happen is you'll come in here and you'll see it. You got a minute or two, you go over there, take your pocket knife out, sharpen it up. Stay sharp all the time. There you go, guys. That is going to be a wrap. As always, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thumbs up and comments are appreciated. Guys, we'll catch you on the next video. Thanks for watching.